Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Okay, now, sorry I'm a little bit late. Now I'm just trying to work out. Sorry, I have prepared some of this earlier, and as usual, when I prepare it earlier, um, I will seem more unprepared than if I don't prepare anything. Let me just work out where I am. Which one? There it is. There it is. There it is. Hang on. So, yeah. So, I hope you're all enjoying your Sunday. If you're watching this live, I'm going to say hello to everyone who's in the chat in a moment. But I also want to say hello to replay crew, also to lurkers who don't necessarily like to join in the chat but just like to watch. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and thank you for caring about these two girls, these two twins or triplets. So, we're looking at this very, very mysterious case of Henrietta and Eliza, who are the two Hungarian sisters living in Aberdeen in the UK, who just disappeared on the 7th of January. Now, at first, of course, nothing was, in the beginning, nothing is known. It's just known really that one minute they were there and the next minute they were gone. Then subsequent enquiries turned out that these two girls at 2 o'clock in the morning on a freezing cold morning had gone out to walk or to do whatever by the banks of the River Dee in Aberdeen. And what we got to see at the time was that, in fact, their last CCTV picture of them, this was originally the CCTV photo that was shown. So this CCTV was taken, they were captured at 2 o'clock in the morning, striding out purposefully in Aberdeen, walking to the River Dee, dressed smartly, dressed warmly. One of these twins, it looks there, one of the sisters is talking sort of volubly, if you like. It looks that way anyway from the picture. The other twin seems to be listening and lost in thought. One of these girls has got this great big bag slung over her shoulder. It is quite a big bag. In fact, the more I've seen that bag, I'm thinking, it doesn't look like a normal handbag, does it? Looks like it's got quite a lot of stuff in it. As ladies, if you're a woman, sometimes we take a big bag out with us. Sometimes we take a smaller bag. Whereas the other girl appears to have like a clutch bag, what you would call a clutch bag. But yeah, and they seem to have, I don't know if they've got like black jeans on or if they've got leggings on. They're dressed up warmly for the weather. They've got scarves on, both of them. But they look purposeful, don't they? They're not dawdling. They're walking purposefully, and one of them, to me, looks like they're talking and the other one is listening. So this was originally the CCTV that we were shown. We then subsequently got to see that the day before, these ladies had been, here they are, but just like the other way round, if you like, dressed similarly, although one's got a hat on here. And in this picture, they're carrying rucksacks. Or is that the same bag that one of them's got there? Maybe on the other picture, maybe they were just carrying it in a different way, though it has got this big long strap. This is clearly carried, these bags are clearly carried like rucksacks on their back. Anyway, so it turned out that the very day before, in the afternoon, again, round about 2 o'clock or later, there they were in the same place on the banks of the River Dee. What were they doing there? They didn't engage with anyone. Were they sussing out what they were going to do? Were they working out where they were going to go? Was it too busy? Were they too worried that maybe if what that was in the intention that was in their head was that they were going to unalive themselves? Was it too busy? Were they concerned that maybe they would get saved? They didn't want to get saved. Or was there a completely different reason? So this is what's so mysterious about this case. They were there the day before or the afternoon before. This CCTV was taken. Apparently, they then returned home to their flat, which was in Aberdeen city centre, and did not emerge from their flat until the following morning at 2 a.m., 2:12 a.m., when they were out again in the pitch black, freezing cold. I mean, it was so cold. The river had even frozen over in parts. So what were they doing there? Were they there determined to unalive themselves? Were they meeting someone? Were they lured there? So what we're going to talk about in this video is this assertion that their father says that maybe they were lured there because while they were there, they also sent a message to their landlady and said they would not be returning to that flat. So, strange thing to do, doesn't it? It seems. But, can we ever account for people's actions if they're just about to unalive themselves? Or was it them that even sent that message? So there's so many still anomalies, according to their father. But according to the police, no suspicious circumstances. That's not true, etc. That's what we're going to look at in this video. So let me just say hello to everyone. So these two girls were 32 years old. They're Hungarian. They lived, some newspaper reports say they lived in Aberdeen for 6 years. Some say 10 years. So they've been in Aberdeen for some length of time, let's say. They were both working. They're two identical twin sisters, but part of a set of triplets. Their third sister, Edith, who lives in Hungary, is not identical. She's devastated, apparently, as are all their family, of course, as you can imagine. So what happened? What happened to these sisters? Anyway, let me just say hello to everybody and then we'll look into it a little bit more. Hi, David. Hi, Matthew. Hi, Laurie. Hi, Angel. Hi, Mara. Hi, Pam. Hi, Deborah. Yep, possibly right, Deborah. Yep. Were they scoping out the tidal situation? It is a real mystery. Unless the police have got more information that they've not released yet, are they going to release it? The thing is, were there more messages? The Eliza and Henrietta's family say there was no indication that they were depressed or that anything was wrong. But were there things that the family didn't know that maybe they've got to know now? Anyway, that's what we're going to look at. Hi, Lorna. Hi, Idea. Yeah, and that's a good question. Where are their possessions? Were their possessions recovered alongside with their bodies? We don't, quite often when people unalive themselves, they leave their possessions on the banks in rivers. They leave their possessions on the side of the river. We've seen that quite often. Did they literally wade into the river with all their possessions, their bag round their shoulder, etc.? I mean, I'm not saying they didn't. Maybe they did. It's a strange thing, isn't it? Anyway, that's what we're going to look at. So as I say, I did prepare a video earlier. We're going to look at that, but I'm going to comment on it as we go along. And, let me know what you think. I expect you've all got views on this. Now, if it weren't for the fact that the family are questioning it as well, I wouldn't be looking at this now. But the family are questioning it. Not only their dad, their brother, their family are in Hungary. What we've got to remember is that as we watch this video, they were estranged from their father. So their father has spoken up and said he's convinced that there's more to it. But they had not seen their father for around 12 years, so quite a long time. So, that's all I want to say. But then their brother also, who they were in constant contact with, their brother Joseph, their other triplet sister Edith, she hasn't spoken out publicly, but Joseph has, and he is not sure what's happened. They all say, these girls, I think what seems strange is they were, obviously they're identical twins, part of triplets. They were very close. Now, we never know what's going on in people's heads, do we? I mean, quite often people unalive themselves and it's a total surprise to everyone. Sometimes it's difficult for a family to admit that their loved one has done that. When they weren't aware of it, they feel bad about it because they think, how could they not have noticed that their loved one was in this position, was in this bad place? But of course, this is two people. And did they make a pact between them? Was there something wrong with one of them? Was there health issues? Was there mental health issues? Did they fall in this river? I think when we watch these videos now about the river, to me, I find it difficult to imagine that they actually fell in. But nothing's beyond the realms of possibility. I think for me, this key question, as I've said from the beginning, is why were they even there at 2:10 in the morning? It was either deliberately because it was quiet to unalive themselves while there was no one around, or maybe they were lured there, or maybe, they were going somewhere and somebody pushed them in. Maybe one fell in and the other one tried to help them. Maybe one pushed the other in. These are all possibilities, and there is no clear answer. It doesn't feel like that. And the possessions, I think, where are their possessions? Because don't forget, for quite a long time, 3 weeks, the police were searching for them. They found nothing. Quite often they do find these people's possessions scattered on the riverbanks. They found nothing. The police found nothing. And in fact, the police had called off the search of the river. And then a member of the public found the first body. And then shortly after that, the second body was found, because obviously that then gave the police perhaps a more concentrated area to look at. Also, there does seem to be a sort of a certain length of time if people go into a river. We've seen that before in many cases. Somebody goes into a river and they go to the bottom of the river, and it's very difficult to find them, even in tiny rivers. And this is a big river, a fast-flowing river. And then eventually, just as a result of chemical processes, the bodies do rise to the surface. Is this what happened here? So, it is a real mystery. Hi, Yvonne. Okay, so let's have a look at this video and see. We've got some, we'll be looking at the scene. We'll be looking at some ideas that people have had. And we'll see what you think. Very sad. And while I'm putting this video on, I'm going to be lighting 2 candles for them, a candle each, because, this is just awful for their families. Whatever, at the end of the day, these 2 girls are deceased. Okay, let's have a look. So, the dad of the tragic twins had a bad feeling before they were found dead in the river, and fears they were cheated and kidnapped. Now, I think it's important to remember that the third triplet as well, Edith, she said she had a premonition as well that something had happened to these girls. Yeah, now it's funny this, because the dad, although they'd been estranged for quite a while, he's saying that he had this bad feeling. But also, not that long ago, the third triplet, Edith, said the same thing, that she had a feeling that and family members quite often have bad feelings. Sometimes you can't put your finger on it. You ever get that unset, not to this maybe dramatic effect, but sometimes you just get a feeling, don't you, that something's not quite right of you, or maybe you even dream about your loved one, friends, family, and you phone them to make sure they're okay. That's happened to me several times, and obviously nothing like this maybe that's happened, although I have had a similar experience to this many years ago with somebody. But yeah, some premonitions and things like, I think that is a genuine thing. But anyway, this is what their dad says, didn't she? So Miklos, Eliza and Henrietta's dad, biological dad, though they were estranged, I think that's important to remember, said that he believes that it wasn't them who sent the text to their family. Let's just have a look at him before we watch the videos. Here he is. This is their estranged father, Miklos, and he has come out in the Hungarian media to say he does not believe that message to their landlady that morning was sent from the twins. So let's have a look at this article. So the dad of the tragic Husti sisters has claimed he had a bad feeling before they were found dead in a river. Miklos Husti, 63, said he fears Henrietta and Eliza, 32, were cheated and kidnapped. And here they are. It is a very mysterious case. The police are still saying they don't believe there's any suspicious circumstances. The police have come out to say that they do not believe that this is correct, though they do then always add, oh, but we're keeping an open mind. So what is the truth? And here he is, Miklos. Apparently he was devastated when he heard the tragic news. Now, sometimes people that are estranged, they feel it more, don't they? Because they have so many regrets that they didn't talk to that person. They didn't keep in touch with them. They'll have all these regrets more than somebody who's been in contact with them, who's been a loving parent to them, like it seems like their mother was. Now, remember in the Hannah Kobayashi case, her father Ryan actually took his own life because he could not cope with the fact that he was estranged from Hannah, and he felt like, this estrangement may have contributed somehow to Hannah's disappearance, because at the time it wasn't known what happened to Hannah, and without even waiting to hear what had happened to her, Ryan threw himself off a car park, a multi-story car park, and it was captured on CCTV. So that's how the police know that it was self-deletion. Nobody else was involved. It was actually captured on CCTV. So, yes, sometimes estranged loved ones feel losses more than people that have been in touch with those people all the time, only because of the regret that they feel. They should have been in touch with them. They should have done this. They should have done that. Whereas I think people who've been on a good relationship with them, of course, they're going to feel terrible. But then, they've nothing to reproach themselves for. This man will probably be regretting a lot of things. Anyway, let's just have a look at this latest video that's been released by The Sun about this case. And there's a fundraiser now to bring the bodies back to Hungary.
Tragic Husti sisters are set to go on one final journey. 2 bodies have been recovered from the River Dee here in Aberdeen. Formal identification is still to take place, but the family of Eliza and Henrietta over in Hungary are convinced that it's them. They're now working hard to get them flown back to Hungary. A friend has set up a fundraiser. So far that's raised, the target was £1,500, and so far it's doubled that. It's raised about 3,000, more than 3,000. It's thought that money will come in really useful for the family to cover the costs of getting them home. This is a case that has sent shockwaves through Aberdeen and, of course, across the world. But you can see just how deeply it's affected people here by the amount of floral tributes. There are now 3 piles of flowers, and there's a steady stream of people coming saying they just want to reflect and think about it. They're saying they didn't think things like that happened in Aberdeen, especially 2 sisters. What happened? We might never know why they were here at 2 in the morning on January the 7th, and there's still mystery around why they texted their landlady.
Yeah, so don't forget that photo that he just showed there. That was not that night. Let me just go back actually, because the photo that they show here. This was the CCTV from the day before. Now, of course, these are the 2 girls with close-up photos of them. You know, it's easy to see in hindsight. They do look quite sad. I mean, I did have a comment left on one of my videos from someone who said that they had been served coffee by, I think it was Henrietta. And they said that they had they'd been in that Costa Coffee where they worked, and they had noticed that they'd become more sort of sad and distracted lately. I mean, it may be that they were going through a depressive episode, or one of them was, and that concerned the other one. They're obviously very close and didn't want to be alone, whatever happened. But yeah, it's a real mystery. I mean, anyway, unless the police know more. So we have to wait and see, of course.
Dean, formal identification is still to take place, but the family of Eliza and Henrietta over in Hungary are convinced that it's them. They're now working hard to get them flown back to Hungary. A friend has set up a fundraiser. So far that's raised, well, sort of the target was £1,500. And so far it's doubled that. It's raised about 3,000.
Yeah, it's raised more than 3,000 now. Now, so apparently the plan is, we'll see later what the brother is saying, what the family is saying. I think the intention is to have the sisters cremated in Aberdeen and then arrange for them to go back to Hungary, not for them to take the bodies back to Hungary. But it still has its cost involved. It's not as simple as you think, unless you hide it in your suitcase or something.
More than 3,000. It's thought that money will come in really useful for the family to cover the costs of getting them home. This is a case that has sent shockwaves through Aberdeen and, of course, across the world. But you can see just how deeply it's affected people here by the amount of floral tributes. There are now 3 piles of flowers, and there's a steady stream of people coming saying they just want to reflect and think about it. They're saying they didn't think things like that happened in Aberdeen, especially 2 sisters. What happened? We might never know why they were here at 2 in the morning on January the 7th. And there's still mystery around why they texted their landlady to tell her that they wouldn't be coming back to their flat. Police have said there are no suspicious circumstances. The family had clung on to the hope that there'd be some miracle, that they would get some kind of happy ending, but that's not happened. They will be reunited with Eliza and Henrietta one final time, but it's not in the happy circumstances that they dreamed of.
Yeah, so they are going to need money, obviously, because some of them, I don't know if all of them, are going to go over to Aberdeen from Hungary. They need to stay somewhere, don't they? I don't know what the circumstances are with the girls' flat. You know, was the rent paid up to date? So apparently a few days before they went missing, they had told the landlady they were going to move out. But that text just at 2:00 in the morning was, to say apparently they weren't coming back, full stop. But before that, they had said that they were going to move out. The family were under the impression that they were saving up to buy their own place. So what was the circumstances with the flat? Was it paid up to date? Were they behind? Did they have, did they have rent arrears, or was it all paid up to date? Did they have another 2 weeks left? Did they have to give notice to leave? What's the circumstances there? I still think the weirdest thing to me in this whole thing is that text. I just can't believe that when you're just about to unalive yourself, your last thought will be, oh, just send the landlady a text and say you're not coming back to the flat. Unless, they just wanted to alert somebody. Maybe the landlady was more than a landlady, a friend as well as a landlady. Maybe they just couldn't face texting their family. But that seems strange because just a couple of days before they had spoke to their mum on the phone and seemed like everything was fine. I know you never know what's going through people's heads. Maybe they didn't want to worry their mum. Maybe their landlady, they thought, oh, well, maybe they text the landlady so that she would go in. Maybe they said I'll say this later on in the video. Maybe they said to that landlady, we don't know what the exact text was, the exact wording of the text. Maybe they said to her, we're not coming back. Can you let our family know? I mean, it just all feels weird. But, maybe they did. And maybe they said anything that's in our flat, whatever, sell it and give the money to our families. I mean, what did they actually say? I know they'd said in that last text, we're not coming back to the flat, but was there more to it? Was there any other explanation of why they were just so abruptly cutting off their tenancy? Seems a strange, that to me is the strangest thing of all in this whole strange case. Let's just watch this next.
Is the mystery of what happened to two missing sisters on the verge of being solved? Just before 8 in the morning, a body was found by a passerby here on the River Dee in Aberdeen. It's believed it was Henrietta Were, and her family over in Hungary have been informed. She was last seen very close to here with her sister Eliza about 3 weeks ago. It's unclear who the member of the public was who made that grim discovery, but the area is really popular with dog walkers and joggers. The woman's body was pulled from the water. It was briefly placed in a blue tent.
Now, look, if you look at this path, so they're supposed to have come over this bridge, aren't they, and walked down this path. It's not a path where I think that you would slip into the water. How would you slip into the water from walking along that path, even if it was icy? Looking at it like that, it is a very wide path, isn't it? It's not a tiny little narrow path. It might have been slippy. But it looked, to me, that looks like you would have to actually wade into that water. Now, one thing they might have taken the bags for is they might have put rocks in them, in the bags, to weigh them down. But again, surely that will come up eventually. The police will talk about it. That could be the reason for the bags. Why take a massive, great big bag like that? Now, we saw in the case of Victoria Taylor, which was a similar case, not two people. Victoria went off on her own, didn't she, with a bag. She went to the Victoria Taylor, if you haven't followed it on maybe you didn't see it on my channel, but we covered it. It seems like, very sadly, Victoria Taylor, she probably did take her own life. But she was seen on CCTV going to like a supermarket type thing, buying a load of stuff that she took down the side of the river. I think that was perhaps alcohol and stuff like that. But the police found her possessions strewn along the riverside. Whereas they found nothing in this case. There was nothing was left on the side of the river. So they've obviously taken their possessions into that river. Why? That makes it all seem even odder, doesn't it? What was in that great big bag, and why take it into the river? Why not leave their possessions on the side of the river like most people who do it? And people do it. People do delete themselves in rivers. But they tend to leave their possessions at the side of the river, as with Victoria Taylor, and even Gaynor Lord, she did the same thing. People are sort of that was another strange case, but she did leave her possessions by the side of the river also. But these girls didn't, or at least the police didn't find anything. So, yeah, Very strange. Very, very strange.
Before it was taken away, police say formal identification has yet to take place, but they have been in contact with Henrietta Were family and told them all about the discovery. Since then, Coast Guard teams have been walking along the riverbank on foot. Police teams have flown drones up over the river and the surrounding areas, and a police boat has been going up and down the River Dee all day. It's understood they're searching for Eliza, who is still missing.
Yeah, so this video, don't forget, was when they'd found one of the bodies. So they found Henrietta, or they didn't find Henrietta, a member of the public. We think, we don't know. They haven't really, this is a problem as well. You know how we get drip fed the information, and that always makes everything seem more mysterious than maybe it is. But it wasn't the police that found the first body. And this then, these scenes that this guy's reporting on at the moment, this was then the police looking for the second body. So the thing is, finding the first body obviously gave them an idea of where the other one was, because the police had stopped looking. They had said they had stopped looking in the river, and they were concentrating their searches on the harbour area because they seemed to feel that the bodies might have been swept out further. But do you know what? They weren't. They were right nearby where they thought that the girls went in. So it just shows you, doesn't it? They hadn't moved that far. Anyway, this was the scene that day after the first body was found, and they found the second body before the end of the day.
She's not used a mobile phone or a bank account since she was last seen with Henrietta in the early hours of Tuesday, January the 7th. The pair were spotted walking towards the River Dee in sub-zero temperatures. Cops say they were working on a very strong theory that the pair of them had gone into the water. After a day's find, they've stressed that they're not finished, and they're determined to find both of the sisters. It looks like, after more than 3 weeks, we could be very close to finding out where the girls ended up after the late night walk. But even knowing that, there are still many.
Look, they're having to go and walk down to the side of the river. I don't believe these girls fell into the river. I think they've either gone into the river from their own volition. Initially, I was thinking, oh yeah, maybe they slipped in, but that's too wide. It's not a narrow little path. You can see how far apart those two guys are. One's right down by the river. This one's right up here. How would you fall into the river from there? I don't believe that they fell in. They were either pushed in there, put in there, or they went in there voluntarily for to unalive themselves. It's very difficult, isn't it? 'Cause it's so difficult to put yourself in somebody's position who's going through mental health issues or who wants to unalive themselves. Because, to me, it's not that I don't understand why people want to unalive themselves. I do understand that. Sometimes people get completely desperate, don't they? But I don't understand why you'd go out at 2 o'clock in the morning in the freezing cold when the river's iced over, when there are other ways you could do it. That's all. There are other ways you could do it. Why do it like that? That is a bit of a mystery to me. But then, you know what? I have no, just know, January is a very bleak time of year, isn't it? Just after Christmas, New Year, etc. So yeah, it could have happened. But I can't see how they fell in there.
Questions in this baffling case that have to be answered. Questions that we might never get the answers to.
Yeah, so hang on, let me stop that. Yeah. So that's 2 sort of recent videos about it. But now, of course, both the sisters have been found now. I don't think they still have been formally identified, but I think there's no doubt there is these 2 sisters. So the enduring mystery remains. What happened to these girls? looking at those shots of the river, it's not, I was wondering if they might have slipped and fell in, but it doesn't look like that sort of place, does it? Then did they go deliberately into this water? Were they put into the water? Were they lured down to the river's edge, as the father thinks? And why did they send a text to their landlady? That to me remains the most enduring mystery. I just cannot imagine why you would even be, if you were just about to unalive yourself, why you would be sending a message to your landlady to say you weren't coming back, because apparently they had told her a few days before that they were thinking of moving out of the apartment. It was quite well known that they were saving to buy somewhere of their own. They spoke to their mum just a couple of days before, and we're going to look at that in a minute. So let's just see, first of all, what their dad has got to say. So bear in mind, their mum and dad are not together. And he was estranged from them. But anyway, he said he was devastated when he heard the news. Here we've got, their final steps. I think we've seen this timeline so many times. They left their home in Aberdeen city centre. They walked along here, up to the bridge. Then they went over the bridge. They were spotted on Victoria Bridge at 2:12 a.m. Don't know who by. And of course, the day before, this is where, this was the first CCTV we were shown of them walking along Market Street, very purposefully, well dressed, bristly. I think you can see this sister is talking, the other one looks lost in thought, reflecting. This sister has got a big bag slung over her shoulder. This sister, I couldn't really make out a bag unless this is a bag, but a lot of people said they think that's a clutch bag she's got. They had one mobile between them. The other mobile was left at the flat. I mean, did they really just say, right, come on, let's go and do it. Let's go and do it. Let's go and do it now. Because the day before they were captured on CCTV in the same spot, well, by the river where they were heading for. Was that to suss out what they were going to do? Did they decide to come back when it'd be quieter? Were there too many people around? And they worried they might be rescued. So they came back at 2:00 in the morning because they thought that was the most chance they had of not being rescued, because they were so determined, to take their own lives if that's what they did. So they were seen walking across here. They turned and sort of disappeared around here. I think their last ping on the phone was here when they texted the landlady to say they wouldn't be returning to the flat. Why? Just seems crazy to me that. Or did they leave a note at the flat? Is there more to this that we don't know? Maybe they wanted the landlady to go in to see the note that they'd left. Anyway, the landlady entered the flat and was concerned at whatever they found there. Maybe the fact that they found all their belongings there, but they'd had this message from them saying they weren't coming back. What caused their concern? When was the rent paid up to? It's my understanding you can't just go into somebody's, somebody who's renting, you can't just go into their property, even though it's your property, but you're renting it. You signed a rental agreement. You can't just go in there without, a reason. Had they paid their rent to the end of the month? Wouldn't you ring the police first, instead of going in there? Because you're breaking the law, technically, I think. Anybody who knows better than me about law, I know about the law in Spain. I mean, don't get me wrong, people still do it. They go, it's like what you're going to do afterwards. But the law is, if someone's got a rental contract, you have to take action to remove them from that property. Yeah, I mean, my understanding is, you can't just go in. If somebody's got a rental contract with you, unless they've broken that contract, you have to go to court, don't you? You have to go to court to get someone evicted, even if they haven't paid the rent or whatever. Why did that landlady go straight into the property? So for example, if that was me, and that was my property, and my tenant sent me a text to say, oh, we're not going back to the property, and I was concerned about them, I would definitely ring the police first. Now, and I would say to the police, look, I want to go in and check everything's okay. Am I okay to do it? Because you've got to be careful that you're not breaking the law to do that. You could get into trouble for doing that. You're not allowed, technically, under the law, to just go into someone's property, whether it's your property or not. If they've got a rental property, it belongs to them, and you don't have the right to just go in. So that was a funny thing as well. I was trying to think about and think, well, what would I do if it was me? You know, my tenant contacted me at 2 o'clock in the morning at 10 past. I mean, I'm presuming they didn't get that message at that moment. Were they in bed? Were they asleep? Did they see it in the morning when they woke up? What's this message from Henrietta and Eliza, say at 2 o'clock in the morning? I would be straight on the phone to the police, because that would straight away sound suspicious, wouldn't it? Or seem like something odd had happened. So I still think that, you know, this is obviously why a lot of people in Hungary, and including the father, as we've seen, are suspicious. And I'm not saying the landlady had anything to do with it, or, you know, because probably not. But just I think for me, the first people I would ring would be the police to say, oh, look, hang on, I've got this strange message from my tenant, or even some sort of advice line about landlords and tenants. I don't think I would go straight into their property, because I don't think you're allowed to do that. But anyway, that seems to be what happened. Property, even if they haven't paid the rent. But these sisters, there's no reason to believe they hadn't. They both were working. They were single. They had no children. They had not even any pets. So they can't have been, you know, they can't have been that poor, surely, unless they had some vices that we don't know about. You know, it's a real mystery why they, in my eyes, why they messaged the landlady. Now, maybe a lot's been made of it being the landlady. Maybe she was a friend also. Maybe that's why they messaged her. Maybe it was because they didn't want to message their family to upset them. So, you know, you can just see that doesn't make sense, because obviously they were going to upset them if they were going to unalive themselves. So why contact the landlady? But a lot of people. Now, the thing is, the other thing we have to remember is there's things we don't know. I see, you know, people talking about they had money problems, or that we don't know any of that they had hospital appointments or money problems. We have no verification of that. We have, you know, in fact, their families say they didn't have any. How are they going to have money problems unless they had a vice that we didn't know about? They supposedly didn't take drugs, didn't drink. They're two single women with no dependents, both working, sharing the costs of a flat, etc. Why would they have money problems? Now, what they say, you know, and I don't know for sure, you know, I've not seen it anywhere officially confirmed that they have any health problems. I'm not saying they didn't, but, you know, you've got to be careful what you might hear on other channels and things like that, because until I get, you know, official and independent verification, either from the police or from the family, that they did have any health concerns or money problems, I wouldn't believe that for a minute. So, you know, and to be honest, people quite often do unalive themselves when their life seems to be perfect. You know, it's not only people with money problems or health concerns that unalive themselves. Sometimes when thing about depression is, if people go into depression, depressive episodes, it doesn't matter how good their life is. You know, you can look at afterwards, oh, they had everything to live for. But, you know, it's something in here, isn't it? It doesn't matter what they've got to live for. They can't think about that. They only think about, you know, the bad things, or that they, you know, there could be any reason. It could just, in fact, there could be no reason except for the fact that they were just going through a depressive episode. But yeah, I don't know of any money problems they had or health problems they had that have been independently confirmed. You know, so if anyone's talking about that, I don't think anybody knows that for certain. You've got to be aware of people talking about things that they don't know. You know, I don't understand that they would be worried about upsetting their family when the whole thing that they were going to do, if that indeed was what they were going to do, was going to really upset them. And yeah, just speaking to their mum a couple of days before, everything seemed fine. Now that happens, of course, with people who unalive themselves. There's not always any outward signs. So yeah, they were last seen on CCTV on Market Street, Victoria Bridge, over the River Dee in Aberdeen at about 2:12 on Tuesday AM, on Tuesday, January the 7th. Police pulled a body from the water last Friday morning, then retrieved a second body near the city's Victoria Bridge. So yeah, one was, they were found very close to each other. So in this area where they had gone missing, they hadn't travelled far, and yet the police had given up their search for them because the police had been searching for them, divers, etc., and hadn't been able to find them for 3 weeks. So the father, Miklos, revealed he had not spoken to his daughters for about 12 years. That's a shame, isn't it? After losing contact. So they would have been in their 20s then, because they were in their 30s when they died. He said he felt sick after being told he had disappeared and was updated during the search by his son Joseph. All along he prayed there had been a misunderstanding and that his daughters were still alive. And Miklos admitted, for weeks I'd hoped they would be found safe and sound, but deep down I knew something had happened to them. And about a month ago I had a bad feeling. I told my wife I was afraid that the girls would be in trouble. I wish I had not been right. That's ironic because the third triplet, as I say, she said that as well, that she had a feeling, a premonition. Their landlady raised the alarm after getting a text from Henrietta saying they would not be returning to their flat. But Miklos told the Hungarian News, I believe they did not send the SMS to their landlord either, but someone else or others who cheated and kidnapped my children. Now, it's important to say it may not be the landlady. I'm not saying it's the landlady. It could be somebody else, who knew them, lured them to that riverside, and then sent the text after, because remember, screams were heard as well. So, there is something very strange about this whole case, isn't there? So it's not necessarily casting shadow on the landlady. Could be who could be anybody who did it. Let's just have a look at this video. Yeah, and going back to that text, we know from other cases, it's not unusual, is it, for a text to come from to people's a text to appear, and it turns out in the end it's from someone completely different. It happens more often than you think, doesn't it? It's the easiest thing in the world if somebody's done something to somebody, if they've got possession of their phone, to just look through the contacts and send a text. And the more they know about them, the more they know who their friends or family are or whatever, the more likely it is. We saw it with Anna Knežević, her husband, sending texts after he's probably allegedly murdered her. That's what he's been arrested for. We saw it in the Madeleine Kingsbury case. We saw it Gabby Petito case, Brian Laundrie sending texts, pretending to be Gabby. It's the most, it's a common thing that happens. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that it may not have been anything to do with the landlady, but it may have been somebody trying to muddy the waters, sending that text. I still think, and it's odd that afterwards they say that the phone was disconnected. Now, was it disconnected as in turned off? Or was it just because then they went into the river, so the phone went off because it got, submerged in the water? Don't forget, they only had one phone with them. The other phone was still at the flat, apparently. So only one of the women had their telephone with them, their mobile phone with them. So, yeah, the police said it was disconnected, but we don't know if it was switched off or it was because it got submerged in the water there, it went off after that text was sent. This is about them finding the body, but
sisters who vanished together. Been found in the hunt for two missing twin sisters who vanished together. Eliza and Henrietta Were were last seen on January 7th at 2:12 a.m. in Market Street at Victoria Bridge in Aberdeen. A huge missing persons search was launched amid fears for their safety in freezing weather conditions, but cops said they had ended searches of the River Dee and the harbour area on Monday. The force today confirmed one body has been recovered from the water near Aberdeen Boat Club. A spokesman for Police Scotland today said, "We were made aware of the body of a person seen in the River Dee near Queen Elizabeth Bridge in Aberdeen around 7:55 on Friday. The body has been recovered from the water and inquiries are on."
So it was ironic because they just announced that they were stopping the search of the river and they were concentrating the search around the harbour area. And literally just the day after, or within a couple of days, a member of the, well, we don't know exactly who saw this body, but it wasn't the police who found the first body. Seems like it was the police who found the second body because they probably searched in the area where the first body was found.
Going. A public appeal was launched after the sisters disappeared from the city's Market Street at the Victoria Bridge over the river at around 2:12 a.m. The 32-year-olds who...
Now, I just want to say they keep showing this picture. This was from the day before, remember? This picture in the daylight, this was from the day before. They were down at the same place. And, you know, the sort of wonder is, you know, were they checking out the scene? Were they trying to work out? Maybe they intended to do it on that day, but it was very busy and maybe they decided not to do it because they thought, you know, if what they did was unalive themselves, maybe they decided not to do it just in case somebody saved them and they didn't want to be saved. Was it some sort of practice run? So remember, this picture is from the day before.
Who are originally from Hungary, moved to the UK 6 years ago and have worked in Aberdeen since.
Now, they were very close, as of course identical twins often are. I think this might be their third sister here over on the right. So they were close. I hope they're together now in, you know, in eternal peace. I hope they've still got each other at least. Whatever happened to them, whether it was something they chose for themselves, is there a possibility that one of the twins slipped in and the other tried to save her? Did one of the twins, triplets, push the other one in? Was there some sort of argument? Was there, you know, were they, we just don't know. We don't know anything about the reasons that this awful tragedy has happened. It just seems just so sad, doesn't it? Because they did have each other. So whatever problems they were going through in their lives, they had each other at least.
They are part of a set of triplets with their sister, Edith, who said she had spoken to both of her siblings on New Year's Eve. They also have a brother, Joseph, who previously told of his concern. Henrietta worked in a Costa coffee branch in the city, minutes from her home, while Eliza is said to have enjoyed cooking. After last being seen on CCTV in the Market Street area, the sisters are said to have headed to an unlit river in sub-zero temperatures. They then turned right onto a footpath next to the River Dee.
Yeah, it's important to remember it was frozen on that day. The river was actually frozen over in parts. It was so cold. So again, I don't know what is a good day to go out and unalive yourself, but it just seems like this wasn't.
The steep, unpaved path was covered in ice at the time and hard to tackle even in daylight. The landlord of the missing sisters had expressed concern for their welfare after many of their personal possessions were discovered inside the property after they said they were moving out. Brother Joseph says their mum had spoken to them the weekend before they went missing and they seemed fine, while their triplet sister had a video call with them on Hogmanay and says they appeared happy and cheerful. The twins' family released a statement through Police Scotland at the time saying, "This has been a very worrying and upsetting time for our family."
So anyway, Miklos went on to say, I have no idea what happened to my daughters, but I'm sure they did not commit S. It comes how he revealed he has never felt such pain after being told their bodies have been found. He also said the triplet siblings of Henrietta and Eliza collapsed when she was informed in Hungary about their deaths, and this grim discovery has shattered their sister Edith, brother Joseph, and the rest of the family. Miklos explained, my son called me to say that they had probably found Henrietta. She has a tattoo of an angel, and they'd identified her based on that. I have never felt such pain before. Edith, my third daughter, also completely collapsed. Now, according to the Sun, the Scottish Sun, these are the 5 biggest questions that still remain. Mysterious text to the landlady. It has emerged that Henrietta texted their landlady as they made their late night journey on January the 7th. She sent a baffling final text message at 2:12 a.m. saying the sisters wouldn't be returning to their flat. They were planning on moving out of their flat immediately. They had handed in their notice and were supposed, so they had already handed in their notice and were supposed to have moved out days before vanishing. Maybe they just decided they couldn't face it. CCTV sighting Eliza and Henrietta were last seen on CCTV near the D at the Aberdeen Harbour early in the morning on Tuesday, January the 7th. CCTV showed the sisters wearing rucksacks at the bridge at around 2:50 p.m. on Monday the 6th of January. It's thought they didn't speak to anyone before they headed home, and then they didn't leave again until they headed back to the riverside. 3. Out of character behaviour. Close family members were also quick to note how the twins' behaviour on the night was very out of character. She added, it was out of character. I mean, Mormere, I think. It was out of character for them to be out in the streets in the early hours, as they often opted to stay in at night. Yeah, the screams, disturbing screams. Cops also proclaimed that screams were heard by a river. At the time the 2 sisters vanished there, it emerged. It's understood noises were heard in Aberdeen on the early hours of Tuesday, January the 7th, that could have been alarming cries. So the final phone call with the brother, the devastated sibling, revealed the family had no idea about this until it was announced by officers. Joseph told the BBC they had a 40-minute conversation and everything seemed normal. So, you know, that's where we are, really. So their dad, Miklos, he definitely thinks something untoward happened, but the police are still saying no. Anyway, what's this? Yeah, because here in this article, let me just put the other one down. In this article, in the Scottish Daily Express, we've got detectives rule out Aberdeen Hungarian's twin death, lured and killed claim. You know, so what is the truth? Eliza and Henrietta Were, 32, went missing on January the 7th in a case that gripped Scotland and the world before being found dead in the River Dee almost a month later. Detectives investigating the deaths of 2 sisters whose disappearances sparked a huge manhunt have categorically ruled out any third-party involvement. Well, we know that categorically only means maybe, because remember Peter Falding categorically said that Nicola Bulley was not in the river, so categorically I've come to think of as a different meaning now. The denial comes after the father of Eliza and Henrietta Were claimed that he believed they had been lured to the river in Aberdeen, where their bodies were found 3 weeks later. However, yesterday, one police source told the Scottish Daily Express there is absolutely nothing to indicate that there is any hint of criminality or that anyone else outside of these two women was involved in this tragedy. Whilst every possible scenario has been explored, it has been stated from the outset that this was believed to be solely a missing persons case. So there you go. You've got the father saying one thing in the Hungarian press. Well, it is speculation at the end of the day. And then you've got detectives saying something completely different. Let's just have a look at this video of the scene, just so we get an idea. Where's it? Why can't I put it on? I can't get it on the big screen for some reason. Anyway, gives you an idea, this, of the scene, doesn't it? It just strikes me, well, there's a life belt there. Maybe that's why they didn't want to go in the daytime. They thought someone would throw them the life belt. You can see that, is it a steep drop? Well, that's the other side of the river, but on the side of the river that the sisters were walking, it wasn't a steep drop, was it? So you feel like they must have either been pushed in or walked in there. I don't know. I don't see how they could have slipped in there, but maybe one did by accident. Maybe one did. Okay, let's have a look at the crowdfund now. So there's been a crowdfund set up, as the reporter mentioned. What happened there? So a crowdfund's been set up to help them get the girls home to Hungary. I'm raising £1,500 to support the family of Henrietta and Eliza Were, and it has now hit 494% of that target. It's on 7,414 pounds. I think people will be very sympathetic towards this, because there's a funeral for two people. Also, they have to come from Hungary to sort things out, and then they'll probably have a funeral in the UK, and then maybe even another one in Hungary, like at least one of them will be a memorial service maybe. But so you're talking about, 4 funerals really, 4 memorial services, the family to come over from Hungary. So, it's good that this was set up, and I think they definitely need this money, and I think it's fair enough. Update: the page will remain up and running until all the important safety checks are completed. Not sure what that is. In just under 4 days, we've managed to raise over 5,500. Well, it's even more than that now. It's £7,414. This will be a tremendous help to the family. I cannot thank you all enough for your generosity. Now, they said, oh, that's right. So here they've said they were closing the fundraiser, but then they said it will remain up and running until all the important safety checks are completed. The family will hopefully receive the support by next week. I've been in daily contact with Joseph, that's the brother, and also received a message from Edith, who's the third triplet, who shared that there are no words to describe how thankful they are. A heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you, not only for your donations, but also for your kind words, which have been an incredible emotional and financial support. I also want to express my gratitude to the press. Since the fundraiser was featured in the news, the donations have more than doubled. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I think, you know my feelings on GoFundMe and that, but I think this might be one that I do need to contribute to. And I'll do that privately. We thank you all from the bottom of my heart. We're deeply so this was the original post. We are deeply heartbroken by the tragic loss of Henrietta and Eliza Were, who went missing on the 7th of January and was sadly discovered on the 31st in the River Dee, Aberdeen. This unimaginable loss has left their family devastated, and in this difficult time we want to come together to offer our support. If you are able to contribute any donation, no matter the amount, I think that's important to remember. I don't know if they have a minimum amount, just to see, because, you know, for anything that you donate to any charity or any cause, or if you donate to, whether it be a charity, if you donate to YouTubers, or if you donate to anything, don't ever think that the amount that you donate is not enough. You know, some people have got more means than others, and if you know, they can donate large amounts. Some people, even you know, they have these. Oh God, what's that one called? Where you just donate £1. Is it something share, or can't remember what it's called? But there are lots of sort of charities use, you know, raising funds. Thing is, if they've got 3,000 followers and each 1,000 of those followers donate £1, that's £3,000. You know, so don't think you have to donate, you know, £100 or £1,000 or £5 even. You donate what you can, and everything that anyone donates counts, means something, because if everybody thinks, oh, I haven't got much to donate, but maybe you have got £1 to donate, if that's, I don't know what's the, let's just say, because I don't like doing these. I'm not doing my donation now because no, you've got to be from £2. So your minimum payment is £2. You know, so anyone, you know, if you, well, I know £2 is a lot of money to some people. I know that as well, because £2 can make a difference to some people, whether they get to the end of the week or not, or the end of the month. So I'm not denigrating it. What I'm trying to say is, don't think you have to donate £10 or £20 or even £5. So your minimum is £2. You know, and if 3,000 people, which is only a tiny amount of people when you think of how many people there are in this world, just in Scotland, never mind all over the world. If everybody donated £2, that's £3,000. So, oh, I wasn't sharing. So yeah, don't ever think that you have to donate, you know, hundreds of pounds. You don't. No, we don't know. You know, at the end of the day, you could think, well, if these girls did decide to do it to themselves, that's a choice they made. You know, deleting yourself is a choice. Sometimes there are pressures that might drive you into it, but it's a choice. Everyone has that choice. Someone's life sort of belongs to them in a way, doesn't it? Or belongs to God, whichever way you want to look at it. But it's, you know, if people do decide to take their own lives and not hurt anybody else in the process. I'm not talking about people who, you know, decide to take their own lives and for some unknown reason take another load of people with them, like the recent shooting in Sweden. I'm not talking about that. They're selfish, you know, twonks, in my opinion. But people who very sadly decide to take their own life for whatever reason, it is sad, and they do, you know, but it is a choice. And some people don't have that choice, of course. Some people, as we're speaking now, there'll be people all over the world that may be breathing their last breath that would give anything to stay on this planet for what, you know, but they've been taken away from it for whatever reason. You know, maybe illness, maybe they're, you know, victims of an attack, or so there are people desperate to live. It's ironic, really, isn't it? People desperate to live, and then at the same time there are people who don't want to live anymore, you know, and that is their right, I suppose, as long as, as I say, they don't take anybody else with them. You can't, you know, it's not my position to judge anyone and what they decide. So, and, you know, I don't know if that's what these girls decided. You sort of look at their faces, you wish you could see what was going on inside. I just hope they're together. You know, they're at peace. You know, anyone who takes that decision, if that's what it is, It's, it's not an easy decision to take for anybody. It's very sad. It is very sad. Some people just aren't strong enough to carry on, are they? But of course, I'm not saying that's what's happened to them, because we don't know. It could be they were lured there. It could be their lives were taken against their will. So it just depends. The police say no, but then there's all these mysteries. So I think this case is a mystery, and it will remain a mystery. And not least because their families consider it a mystery. Their families do not understand it, do they? Okay, we're going to look at this article now, where this is their brother. Let me just share this. Their brother Joseph thanking people for their support, which is so very sad, isn't it? So very sad. So the heartbroken family of the tragic Hoosty sisters thanks Aberdonians as the quest for answers goes on. Joseph Hoosty, the brother of sisters Eliza and Henrietta, said, "We want to find out the reason they died. It's hard, but we would like to know the answers." Of course you're going to want the answers. The heartbroken family of two sisters found dead in a river has thanked the Aberdeen public as their quest for answers continues. Eliza and Henrietta Hoosty, both 32, went missing from their flat in the city's Charlotte Street on January the 7th. Their bodies were found in the River Dee near Aberdeen Boat Club last weekend. The police always said they seemed to be heading for the boat club, didn't they? But they never got there. And the reason they knew they didn't get there is because they couldn't find them on the CCTV coming out. So police broke the tragic news to their loved ones in Hungary, and their other triplet, Edith Hoosty, broke down after hearing the news and is being looked after by her relatives. Officers gave the Hoosty family daily updates during the 26-day search, and the family say they're now seeking answers about what happened. There are lots of contradictions in the timeline. Speaking to the press and journal from his home in Budapest via an interpreter, bless me, Eliza and Henrietta's brother Joseph said the priorities are for the investigation to conclude and for his siblings to be laid to rest. Joseph said there are lots of contradictions in the sequence of events before they went missing. He must have visited, look, he's got his kilt on there. That's them in happier times. So it's so lovely to see them smiling like that, isn't it? All smiling, all smiles. There he must have been visiting. I presume he was visiting Aberdeen. There he is. He's got his kilt on and his Jimmy hat or Tam O'Shanter hat or whatever you call it. I know some of my Scottish viewers will correct me on that. He's got his sporran on. I don't think there will be many answers given in the coming days, but the story isn't quite over yet. I truly believe the local police will do their best to do a full investigation and give answers about what happened exactly. My family and I are religious people. We believe that with the help of God, we will learn what happened. The sisters had lived in the UK for about 10 years. Now that's interesting because a lot of articles I've read have said 6 years. So what's the truth? But mostly in Aberdeen. They both held down jobs. Henrietta in Costa Coffee and Eliza as a cleaner. They didn't socialise much and would usually phone Edith and Joseph for monthly chats. And the final family phone call was Hogmanay. Eliza and Henrietta called Edith and wished her, right, watch me butcher this, Boldog Uj Evet Kivanok, Happy New Year in Hungary. And Edith didn't think anything was amiss. And then a few days later, they spoke to their family for the final time. The last time Eliza and Henrietta had contact with their mum was on the Saturday before they disappeared, January the 4th. They had quite a long conversation, about 40 minutes, and there was nothing to suspect that anything was wrong or something was about to happen. Now, they might have done it spontaneously, so it seems like they told their landlady, with prior notice that they were going to be moving out. And then just suddenly, boom, that text, 2 o'clock in the morning, or just gone 2 o'clock in the morning, we're not coming back to the flat. I mean, it makes you work, because we don't know what that text is. Maybe they said, sell any possessions that there, sell them, give it to our family. We don't know the full, or, we've been told that text was to say they won't be returning to the flat, but we haven't been told the full content of it. Was it saying, any possessions you find there, sell them, give the money to our family for our funerals? We don't even know if they were saying that, so we don't know. With me and Edith, the catch-ups would be maybe every 3 weeks or monthly, but with their mum, it was on a daily basis. Eliza and Henrietta had a deeper connection with their mum. No matter what, they would always be in touch with her, whether they had any problems or good news to share. They would call her to get advice and opinions, no matter what the issue. Quite often families cannot accept that their loved ones have deleted themselves. But this does feel strange, doesn't it? If they were so close to their mum and they literally spoke to her a couple of days before and she did not realise anything was wrong. Was it that spasm? Or maybe they didn't want to worry her. I mean, these are all possibilities. Maybe sometimes you don't speak to your family because you don't want to worry them. You don't want them to worry about you. But it feels strange, this, doesn't it? But just because something feels strange doesn't mean it is, I suppose. Joseph said he is sure that if his sisters were so distressed that they were considering harming themselves, they would have told their mum. Maybe it was purely an accident. Anyway, here we've got the last sightings route of the missing Husty sisters. So we're starting off number 1. So number 1 now is that day before at 2:50 on Monday, January the 6th. They were captured on CCTV at Victoria Bridge. They spent about 5 minutes on the bridge and the footpath, and they did not interact with anyone else. Was that the were they sort of working out what they were going to do then? So then we go right over here to number 2. They then walked back to their flat on Charlotte Street via Union Square Shopping Centre. Then number 3, then apparently they did not leave their flat again after that. So from sort of 2:50 or just after, whenever they walked back home, they didn't leave their flat until 2 a.m. the following morning. When police believe they left their flat, taking a direct route back to Victoria Bridge. So why did they go there the day before and then go home? What did they do when they were at home? Is that when they were preparing things? And of course, when they went out on that 2:50 the day before, they had rucksacks. Both of them had rucksacks with them. When they returned, see, this is the other thing that's weird to me. When they returned the following morning, they didn't have the rucksacks with them. They had more dressy bags, not a rucksack, casual type bag, but they had the similar clothes on, but, similar jackets, because they dressed quite smartly, didn't they? But they didn't have the rucksacks with them. One of them had this sort of handbag slung over their shoulder, and the other had like a clutch bag. It's more like they were going out. Strange. Still feels strange to me. But yeah, Just because it feels strange doesn't mean it is, I suppose. Anyway, police believe they left their flat, taking a direct route back to Victoria Bridge. So what was that? That was number 3. So number 4, that's when at 2:12 a.m. they were captured on CCTV on Market Bridge at Victoria Bridge. Then we go to number 5. They were last seen, so they crossed over the bridge and were last seen heading over the bridge and turning right onto the footpath, heading towards Aberdeen Boat Club. And then that was it, wasn't it, for a while? Well, they had the text then. Number 6 is the text to their landlady at 2:12 a.m. saying they would not be returned to their flat, and the phone was then disconnected. Now, can the police tell that it was disconnected as opposed to went in the water and went off on its own? You know, did they actually turn it off? I presume they found the phone with the bodies, because they never found any possessions on the side. I mean, quite often when women or men or anyone, you know, they leave their possessions quite often, don't they, on the side of the river, especially for women, because they have more possessions normally with them, don't they? You know, a man might have things in his pockets, you know, like his wallet, his keys maybe, whereas women will normally have a bag with God knows what. I mean, not so much these days, but I used to always have everything in my handbag. I mean, I just remember one time me and my friends were out in a bar and we got chatting to this guy, and he wanted a screwdriver because the screw had come out of his sunglasses, which were very expensive. And I had in my bag a set of screwdrivers, you know, little ones like you get in a cracker at Christmas, tiny, tiny screwdrivers. And he couldn't believe it, but I used to carry everything around in my bag now. Not so much now. What I've normally got in my bag now are poo bags for the dogs. So whenever I go in my bag for anything, poo bags fall out. It's so embarrassing. But they come in handy, like if you're in a restaurant and you want to take home a doggy bag for the dogs. You've always got a little plastic bag to put it in. But, you know, so this one, what I'm trying to say is, what did they change from the rucksacks for to the bags? And that handbag that one of the girls had with her, I'm not sure which one it is. I don't know if it's Henrietta or Eliza with the big bag over her shoulder. What was in it? You know, that was quite a big bag. Like my handbag now, it's not very big. And as I say, it's got poo bags in it. It's got my purse. It's normally got some sweeties, maybe some dog treats. What else do I have in there? A pen, possibly. Gosh, that's about it, really. My phone, of course, if I'm out. So what was in that bag? It's interesting to think, isn't it? And why did they go into the water with the bag on? Yeah, strange that, isn't it? Don't think that's normally what happens in self-deletion cases. As I say, the ones I've heard about, they normally leave their possessions on the side. Anyway, so he is at a loss to explain why Eliza and Henrietta made other decisions in the days before they disappeared. They told their landlady they were moving out only days before they went missing. We'd like to know the answers, he said. One of the sisters then texted the landlady at just after 2 a.m. on the day they went missing to say they would not be returning to the flat. And the landlady, in fact, carried out inquiries at the address, which led them to be concerned about the pair's whereabouts. I wonder why they were concerned. Was there a note? No. Anyway, Joseph said, we didn't know about that entire situation regarding their tenancy, because as far as the family were concerned, these girls were saving up to buy somewhere. The mystery deepened further when it emerged that 12 hours before going to the riverbank and going missing, the sisters had walked to the same location before heading back to their flat. Next comes the post-mortem investigation remains and a fitting tribute to the sisters in the form of a funeral service. Joseph said, "We want to find out the reason they died. It's hard, but we would like to know the answers." So the cremation's going to be in Aberdeen, but other decisions are still to be made. He said, "We want to address the formal processes that are required in Scotland and then lay Eliza and Henrietta to rest." Joseph said the sisters will be cremated in Aberdeen, but they will decide about funeral arrangements later. Now that could involve a funeral or a memorial service in Aberdeen, Hungary, or both. He told us the specifics of the funeral are not really something we've thought about yet. It's hard enough for the family now, just now dealing with our loss. Edith and I would like to go to Aberdeen, but there are no dates just yet. In the meantime, we've contacted the Hungarian embassy and they're organising whatever we need. Now, I don't know the girl's mother's circumstances, but, you know, if, as a mother, I would want to go. But, you know, I don't know if she's ill, if she's capable of going. Maybe she's got other commitments. So, you know, I'm not going to make a sort of a judgment on that. You just, you know, you feel like you would want to go, don't you? But you know what? You cannot, you know, you just don't know what other people think. So Hungarian national and Aberdeen resident Anita Vida was so moved by the family's trauma, she started this fundraising campaign to help with funeral costs. I hope it's, you know, a genuine and sincere campaign. As you know, as we know from what happened in Australia, it's not only there it's happened with a few cases. I hope that this is a genuine, I think it probably is a genuine fundraising effort that the family are going to benefit for. So it's anticipated to be expensive because of the cost of repatriating the sisters' ashes to Hungary and arranging one or two services. Yeah, because even repatriating ashes, it's not, you know, you think that'd be as cheap as anything, just take it on the plane, you know, maybe even just book a seat for it. I don't know. I literally don't know. But I don't think it's as straightforward as you think it is. Anyway, Anita's partner knew Henrietta socially, and in just 4 days, supporters from across the Northeast, the UK and Europe surpassed Anita's initial target of £1,500. In fact, the current total stands at £6,325, which it has gone up. It's over 7,000 now, with some 358 people donating amounts between 5 and 100. And yeah, don't forget the minimum amount is £2. If you feel like you have got to spare £2 to help this family, it's not a lot of money, though I know it can make the difference between paying your bill or not paying it. So I'm not trying to denigrate it, but what I'm trying to say is don't feel like you have to, you know, donate £10 or whatever. So Anita said, in just under 4 days, we have managed to raise this amount. Yeah, this will be a tremendous help to the family. I cannot thank you all for your generosity. Right, so I'm not going to read that because I've just read all that from the fundraiser. So, yeah, she also thanked the media for publicising the fundraiser. So Joseph, who works at a pool and darts social club in Budapest, told us the support we had from the people of Aberdeen very much surprised all my family. Oh no, he says he's never visited Aberdeen, so I didn't know much about the people there. From the start, I've received lots of thoughtful messages, not just from Hungarians living in Scotland, but also native Scots. So that must mean that that photo of him in his kilt, and let's just go back to that. Maybe they took that for him as a present when they went to Hungary then. Yeah, I wasn't sure if he'd visited Scotland and that's where he got the Scottish outfit, but as he says he's never been to Aberdeen, they must have taken it over there for him. And you know, kilts, they're really heavy. I had a Scottish boyfriend. He used to, when he was flying sort of between Scotland and Spain, he would wear his kilts because it was too heavy to put in the suitcase. You get charged overweight in your suitcase because it's the sporran and everything. Okay. Oh, so they must have taken that over for him, bless. Where are we? Oh. Yeah, so he said, from the start, I received lots of thoughtful messages, not just from Hungarians living in Scotland, but also native Scots. It was very touching how thoughtful people were. We're very grateful for the support. The police have been very good also, and we were grateful for how they were keeping us up to date. The authorities in Scotland were extremely helpful in putting in all this effort to find my sisters and assist our family. I'm thankful to everyone involved, trying to search for my sisters tirelessly and not giving up. Well, at least they found them. I mean, it's sad. It's heartbreakingly sad, tragic that they're not with us anymore. But at least they know where they are. And this, again, we talk about it every time. There surely can't be anything worse than not knowing what's happened to your loved one. So he says, I would like to thank on behalf of my family, the people of Aberdeen, for all their love and care. Tia. Superintendent David Howison said, our thoughts very much remain with the family of Henrietta and Eliza Were at this very difficult time, extremely difficult time. Officers are supporting them and ensuring they're fully updated. This has had a significant impact on the Aberdeen community and much further afield. I think everyone who has responded to our appeals for information and assisted us, I thank everyone who has responded to our appeals for information and assisted us during this challenging and difficult investigation. I'm just going to have a look on Police Scotland news. Yeah, I don't think there's anything new coming up. It's like the police have definitely decided. Oh God, just going down to that. I didn't know Jimmy Savile had a Glencoe cottage. Oh God, how spooky is that? Sorry, I must look at that another time because Glencoe is such. Gosh, when I saw that, just totally gave me the creep. So apparently it's set on fire or something. But imagine Jimmy Savile in that remote cottage in Glencoe. It just literally gave me the creeps when I saw that. Anyway, that's just an aside. Creepy, just spooky place, isn't it? You know, very isolated place. Anyway. Right, what am I going to look at now? I'm just going to put down some. I think I've more or less. Oh, let's have a look at this. Yeah. This is just a video that we haven't seen. It's nothing new on it that we don't know, but it's interesting because we haven't seen this video.
New CCTV footage has revealed that the two missing twin sisters who vanished in Aberdeen made an earlier visit to the bridge where they were last spotted. Eliza and Henrietta Were, both 32, were last seen at the Victoria Bridge over the River Dee at around 2:12 a.m. on Tuesday, January 7th. They then crossed the bridge and turned right onto a footpath next to the river, heading towards Aberdeen Boat Club. The sisters, originally from Hungary, moved to Scotland 7 years ago and are part of a set of triplets. Investigations into their disappearance have now confirmed that both women were seen at the same bridge around 2:50 p.m. on Monday the 6th of January 2025. CCTV shows Eliza and Henrietta spent 5 minutes at the footpath and the Victoria Bridge, but did not engage with anyone else. They then made their way back to the flats through the city centre, and there's nothing to indicate that they left it again until shortly before they were last seen. A text message was sent from Henrietta's mobile phone to their landlady at 2:12 a.m. on the day they disappeared, indicating they would not be returning to the flat. The phone was then disconnected from the network and has not been active since. This information comes after the police revealed they're working through a number of theories, the main one being that the sisters have for some reason entered the water. It's been emphasised that the case is not a criminal inquiry and that anyone with information that could relate to the missing sisters should come forward as soon as possible.
Now, it's important to I just want to mention there, the police were right. They said they thought they'd entered the water. They definitely entered the water. The question is, how did they enter the water and why? Okay, that's so that was the video that I prepared earlier to watch so that I could sort of have a chat with you all while we were watching it. So that's what we know so far, and this case has captured a lot of people's attention for the pure mystery of it. And although it seems, it's so unusual, isn't it, for two women, a double, if that is a self-deletion, a double self-deletion like that, or is it, or is there more to it? Is there more to it? So, I hope the family gets the answers that they need. I hope it gets resolved, one way or another beyond, is it going to be another case like Nicola Bulley that people will still be talking about 2 years later and not sure of what happened, not really believing the official narrative, or is it simply a case of two sisters, twin sisters, who didn't want to carry on anymore? And is it literally just as clear-cut as the police seem to think it is? Or is there more to it? Don't forget to let me know what you think in comments. It's interesting. People do things that we can't explain, that we can't understand. People do act in different ways, don't they, to what we can understand. And we can't underestimate that. You all think, oh, well, you can't imagine someone doing that, but people do things. People do things, people's minds work in mysterious ways, and it is possible that it is exactly what the police say it is. So we'll see what else comes out, and, see if the family is, at the end of the day, what's important is that the family end up being, confident in the findings. That's what's important. Just made me think there a little bit of the lady in the Nicola Bulley case, the vet, Evelina. She was Polish, I think, wasn't she? And of course, her family had to accept that her death was self-deletion, even though she had all those stab wounds that supposedly she did to herself. But then again, maybe she did. So I really feel for these families. It's bad enough if your loved one does something like that, but it's clear cut, and they leave a note and you know what's happened. But to these this mysterious, they're obviously totally been blindsided. The family, they spoke to the girls. They didn't realise there was anything wrong in their lives or that they were even thinking about it. So if it does turn out that that's what they've done, they totally blindsided this family. It must be so difficult to accept. So, hi, Susie. Yeah, exactly. Depression. The thing is, with them being identical twins, if one of them had depression, it's likely to have rubbed off on the other one, isn't it? Twins are uniquely, especially identical twins, they are uniquely tied together. And, maybe that one got depressed and that reflected on the other. The other didn't think they could live without that one. Who knows the discussions that have gone on between these girls building up to that day. If it was self-deletion, even though it might have been a spontaneous act in the end, I'm sure they've talked about it a lot before, and they won't just suddenly have got up one day and gone out and done that. It will have been discussed. And there may be health issues, there may be money worries, things that people are saying are possibilities. I personally can't go with the money worry thing, not if they're both working and they have no dependents. I'm not saying they'd have loads of money, but surely, two girls working like that, sharing the costs of the rent, etc. No children, don't think they even had pets, never mind, so how would they have money worries unless they had, maybe they had a gambling addiction? You just don't know, do you? Maybe they were, even though their family didn't think they drank or took drugs, maybe they did. Or maybe there is more to the whole thing. But yeah. Hi, Michelle. Maybe one of them had lost their job. Maybe they were, or like you say, maybe just, Scotland is depressing. Apparently that area, I'll tell you what I was intrigued by, an American YouTuber, Gray Hughes, who some of you will know. He did, an article on it, if you like, or a video about this case. And when he did like the Google walk, from where they lived to the river, and he was saying, oh my God, what is this place? He said it's like something off from the Russian Soviet Union, because it is quite a depressing place, isn't it? I don't want to offend anyone who lives in Aberdeen, but that particular area, it's quite stark, isn't it? Scotland's a beautiful place, and there's lots of parts of Scotland that are so beautiful, the greenery and everything. But I think that place, it is a little bit stark and depressing. I don't know what it's like in Hungary, where they come from, in Budapest is a city at the end of the day. So, but yeah, winters are long and depressing in the UK in general, aren't they? All that grey sky, and after Christmas, because you got Christmas and New Year, and quite a lot of people get depressed in January, don't they? No. When you realise that New Year's coming, it's same shit, different year. People do get fed up, don't they? They have this New Year, all this. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe they did have money problems if one of them had lost their job. Maybe they were worried. Of course, things have got harder now for Europeans because of Brexit. And then you think, why didn't they just go back to Hungary? But maybe that just wasn't an option for them. Seems like, they were quite close to the rest of their family. But then you don't know about that. You don't know what, how they felt about everything. Maybe they felt quite alone. Sometimes twins can feel like that. They're together, but alone in their little bubble. So, it is, there's many reasons, and it might have been something that's been building up in them for a long time. It just shows, because when you look at the photos of them, they're very attractive girls. Did they have boyfriends? Maybe one of them had just split up from a boyfriend. I don't know about their sort of social life, if you like. We don't know all the details about them. But they were in the prime of their life, their early 30s. That's a very good age, isn't it? Because you sort of got through all the angst of teenage years. Normally by the time you get into your 30s, you know yourself a little bit more, don't you? It can be a good time. But I just don't know. Maybe they just couldn't see any hope for the future. Or maybe there is more to it. Maybe it is more suspicious and something nefarious did happen to them, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, thank you for caring about them. Thank you for joining me in this video where we could talk about it, talk about the possibilities. I just hope for their family's sake they get the answers, you know, that they a clear-cut answer, because if these girls did do something to themselves, at least they're together, and I hope they left some sort of a note, because I think it'd be difficult for the family to not be clear what had happened to them. You know, I hope they do get clear answers as to what happened to these girls. Yeah, Blue Monday, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, January is depressing. I mean, it's even here in Spain. You know, for those of you, it's been freezing cold. I mean, it has, but I think the difference here is quite like today's been a beautiful day, like blue, lovely blue sky, etc. You don't get that greyness so often as you get in the UK, but it has been cold, you know, and January is miserable because, you know, you've spent all your money normally at Christmas. You know, most people are just waiting for the end of the month, aren't they? And hoping for things to get better. Anyway, yeah, we may never get a definitive answer, but I hope they get some answer. See, we don't know what messages or what might have been found in the flat, what's going to come up. We'll see what the autopsy reports. I hope they just get a definitive answer one way or another, because the mystery of it is, I mean, I'm sure if somebody did something to them, surely they would have been picked up by CCTV, etc. But anyway, I think there must be an inquest. Surely, Susie, there must be an inquest. I think any unexplained death, there has to be an inquest. I think that's my understanding. If a death is unexplained, you know, if a doctor hasn't, you know, seen that person and they can certify it's a health issue or whatever, I think there normally has to be an inquest. I would imagine so. So we'll see what happens when the post-mortem results come out, etc. Okay, so thank you so much. Please look after yourselves, because and remember, you know, this reminds us that you never know what's going on in people's minds. So you must always look after you, not only your physical health, your mental health. Do what's right for you, because the only way you can help other people is by making sure you're okay. Thanks for spending this time here with me. Please remember to leave your fingerprint on the like button. Press like on your way out if you didn't press it on your way in. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. And don't forget to press notifications so that you'll get updates on this case and any other case we're covering. Yeah, and until I see you again, as always, may your God go with you. Bye. And as I say, most importantly, take care. Bye.